People, from the time I was little, I would go to gatherings and they'll be whispering, "That's Mojekwu's daughter, the one that stole Biafran money." What the heck? What money did my dad steal? My dad didn't steal any money. If anything, we suffered on behalf of Biafra. We were without a dad for months on a time, and we were moving from place to place. If not for my mom and friends, how would we have made it when my dad was not in the country? Wasn't it?
Hello, my name is Victor Nwora Aghadi, and we're here in Chicago, the beautiful city of Chicago. It's winter, but we have a break today, and we decided to make the best of this break. We are in a restaurant, one of the Nigerian restaurants that a lot of Nigerians and people from other parts of the world come to have a taste of Nigerian and African food. And we're very grateful for the management of this dynamic African restaurant has given us the opportunity to use a portion of their facility to talk about something really, really pertinent. The Nigerian Civil War, it's also called the Biafran War, ended, but the echoes are still on, and it's not surprising because a lot of things happened. A lot of people died. A lot of it was one of the most bitter wars that have been fought in Africa. So it's not surprising that it's still echoing up till today. And we had a lot of things that happened. A lot of people were involved. You know, some fought as soldiers, some were able to make it back after the war, some died in the war. But there were some who prosecuted the war by being actually involved in procuring the materials that were used to fight the war, like airplanes, like actually refining the oil, you know, because Biafra refined its own oil then. They built their own bombs and did a lot of... So there were a lot of activities going on that people like us who were little kids never knew about. But what we saw mostly was what the enemies were doing, like the fighter planes that were coming to bomb civilian areas and the rockets that were falling and killing people. And so all those activities are things that would form stories for a very long time. But today we're going to take it from one angle. It's the angle of accusations that are being bandied around that some actors in that war, some people who prosecuted the war with Chukwuemeka Odumegwu, who was the Biafran leader, that they actually used the funds that were given to them to help themselves, that they were there for their own selfish reasons. And a family has been mentioned in that case, and a member of the family feels very, very strongly that she needs to put the record straight. So we will know exactly what happened, because I know that this discussion is going to go on for a while. And that's why we have here with us a Chicagoan, she is too, and somebody that you well know. A lot of Nigerians know her by name and know her by the vocation that she was involved in, which was KeepFit. She was one of those who brought the KeepFit revolution to Nigeria on TV, in the newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, right? We have you here today, Pamela, for an entirely different reason. You want to put the record straight concerning the involvement of your dad in the Nigerian Civil War and in the Biafran Civil War. Pamela, first of all, let's start with you. Where were you during the Nigerian Civil War?
I was in Biafra, and I left 6 months before the war ended, and we moved all over the place. Wherever my dad went, we went with him. Sometimes if he felt it wasn't safe, then he'll send us back to the village. But we were in Biafra until 6 months before the war ended. Then we left the country.
Oh, you left the country and you went to...
We went all over, but I ended up here in America.
Yeah, could you remember some of those countries?
We went to Ireland, England, America, basically. Portugal.
Yeah, because I think I heard you talk about Portugal once on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Portugal.
Yeah. What were you doing when the war started? Like, what class were you in, or what were you
I was in Form 1 at Queen's School, Enugu, when the war started. And to me, it was a joke, because I didn't really understand what we were going to see, but we saw a lot. And I just remember Ojukwu coming on the air talking about there was a secession. I mean, I've heard the word secession, but at 13, you don't know what that means. And I didn't have any idea what my life would be like. It was a very, very strange life.
Yes, I remember.
Interesting, strange.
I was in lower elementary then, I remember too. They told us that we would be gone for about 2 weeks or a week from school.
30 months.
Yeah, we never came back. 30 months after. So, yes, it was very traumatic. So, the reason I'm trying to establish this background is to, for whoever is watching this and listening to this, to know, how old you were at that point and how impressionable you were, to be able to recognize and know what your dad was doing, and then possibly when the war was over, how old you could have been, because some of the things that you may mention, you know, if you were too young, a lot of people would say, well, you didn't even know what was happening.
I was 13. But
yes, if you were 13, so you already you knew what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, you're from your dad. Tell us about your dad, his name and his full name and
my dad.
His vocation.
My dad was a lawyer. His name is C.C. Christopher Chukwemeka Mojekwu. He was the Attorney General and Minister of Justice of Eastern Nigeria, the Chief Boy Scouts of Nigeria, and then right after that, the war started. We moved around quite a bit, and then we ended up in Enugu, and then the war started, and here I am, talking about the war.
Yes, that was, he was the Chief Boy Scout, right?
Yes, he was.
So he was a disciplined man.
Extremely. Extremely.
I mean, Boy Scouts movement then was a serious affair. And now, did you know Chukwemeka Odumegwu before the war started?
Way before the war. We're from the same Nwakamwa family. And when we lived in Lagos, they lived just down the road from our house. And my dad was his father's lawyer. And his father used to come to our house every Sunday. And he and my dad would talk. And he would refer to my father as Obonyononto, meaning that my dad didn't have money, or maybe not as much money as he did. And people like Chinua Achebe, a whole bunch of other people were friendly with my dad. And these are people I knew when I was much younger.
Yes, so Chukwemeka's dad, I mean, Emeka Ojukwu's dad was
LP.
a very, very rich man.
Oh, extremely.
I understand that when the Queen came to Nigeria in 1956, he was the one that offered his Rolls Royce
exactly.
to move the Queen around.
Exactly.
So Nigeria didn't have one.
No, they didn't.
So, and I think he was quite vocal about his wealth too. He wasn't modest about it.
No, he wasn't. Who would be?
So, okay, with this background, your dad, his values, you know, does it say something about his values, that he's a modest person, he wasn't somebody who is ostentatious or something?
He didn't believe in throwing around his wealth. Neither did he believe in being too show-offy with it. You know, we lived in a very simple life. We just like most families would. And he didn't spend so much money on us. Not that we had to, but he made sure that everything we needed and wanted, we had it. And that was okay with us. And our most favorite time with him was every Sunday. We would have Sunday dinners. The whole family would sit down at the table. He'll teach us how to use our cutlery, and we just talk for 3-4 hours. We'll be there eating and talking, and just generally having a good time with the family. He was a very family-oriented person and liked to call a lot of, make friends with a lot of family, and assisted as many as he could, if he could.
Yes. What was your mom at that point?
My mom is from Nnewichi. She's from the Oruche family. Her father was a pastor, and my mom was the only girl out of all the boys in her house. And so she was a bit tomboyish. And so the day that my dad went to meet her, or he was told that, there's a girl over there that you can go and marry, she was stoning him with raw guavas. And, and my dad said, oh yeah, I like that one.
That's something.
Wow. So, so she was there all along. Was she with him during the war?
Yes.
She was.
Yes, she was mostly with us. Okay. And then, whenever he was in town, she'd be there. And wherever we moved to, that was when my mom was with us all the time.
Yeah. So now, this is very rich. In fact, I just wish we would go on talking about your family. This is like reading a book, I'm telling you. There's just so much to talk about. But now let's go to the topic. You wanted to talk about this thing, and I want you to establish it yourself. What is the story What's the story being bandied around by your dad?
They claim that my dad stole the Biafran money. My dad didn't steal anything. It was something that he was in charge of. And when Biafra ended, he packed up everything and brought everything with him to United States. And in fact, the suitcase that had everything Biafra, he was the one that carried it all the time. Emeka Ojukwu himself came to our house when my dad was teaching at Lake Forest College. And I've been to Ivory Coast so many times, even before Emeka Ojukwu died, whenever he came to Chicago, I would go to see him talk. So if there was anything that needed to be exchanged or anything, I would have taken it. And when Emeka came to the house, my dad would have given it to him. So I don't really understand what people are talking about and why they're calling my dad a thief, or would refer to him as that. And that makes me angry.
Yes. When you say that he was in charge of everything, can you be a little bit specific at the things that he was in charge of, you know?
Basically, my dad was the one that went around the world and secured everything that Biafra had. The planes, everything. The what do you call those people that help you fight?
The mercenaries.
Mercenaries, all those people. He was the one in charge of that. Liaising with different countries, it was my dad. My dad was the one that most of those countries knew. I have documents and documents, letters and letters from all types of people corresponding with my dad, including Richard Nixon on the Biafra War.
Yeah, what did he have what was his position? What was his position at that point in time, you know?
He was called the liaison of Biafra. But he was everything to Biafra. Emeka was in Nigeria, Biafra then, running the war. But my dad was the one that everything that Biafra had, planes, relief, any assistance, any clothing, any communication, my dad did all that.
Yeah, because the other day, you had time to show me some of the memorabilia. You know, those were things that were so important to Biafra. They minted dummies, but they used to mint the coins to do the international passport, and so many of those things. How come that they are in your possession now?
They were in my dad's possession. When my dad died, we had all those things. I didn't know we had them. If I knew we had them, definitely I would have been talking about this years ago. It's just been recently that we were moving things around and we discovered, oh my goodness, so this is what people have been making noise about. That's when I decided it's my turn now to talk about it and show those things and try to correct some impressions that people have.
Now, are you able to establish your dad's financial status after the war? You know, like after the war, or during the war, even during the war, because you said that he was moving around, sometimes going back to the village.
Yeah, during the war we were okay. It was after the war that's when we came out. My dad had nothing. We were working. My sister and I had to work, and whatever salary we made, we had to give it to him so that he could use it to help my mother and pay rent and do everything. People don't know this. They think that maybe my dad stole money. But no, he didn't. We, children, were supporting him.
Yeah, let me ask this question. If he made the money, he probably would have, I don't know if a Biafran currency had any exchange value, but he probably would have kept the money away and then made use of it after the war. But the question, that's why I'm asking this question. Was he, how was his international connection before the war started?
Very well, because he was Like I said, he was the Attorney General and Minister of Justice of Eastern Nigeria. So he had an opportunity to travel the world. In fact, when he became Attorney General, there was a junior lawyer that was assigned to him in New York State, and he took him all over United States. I ended up becoming the man's pen pal, and he ended up becoming my dad's lawyer and handled a lot of things personally for my dad.
Yeah. Now let's go back to the beginning of this issue. You said they are talking. People, who are they? Who are these people? And what substance are they given in the accusations they're making? For instance, if you say somebody misappropriated money, you either would say the amount of money that was misappropriated or where the money was left. Because today people say, Abacha stole money, and they say, well, it was taken to Suez Canal. It was used in building this, and that. So what are the substance of these accusations they're making?
I wish I knew, because if I knew, I probably wouldn't be doing this. But people, from the time I was little, I would go to gatherings and they'll be whispering, that's Sisi Mojekwu's daughter, the one that stole Biafran money. What the heck? What money did my dad steal? My dad didn't steal any money. If anything, we suffered on behalf of Biafra. We were without a dad for months on a time, and we were moving from place to place. If not for my mom and friends, how would we have made it? When my dad was not in the country, it wasn't possible. He didn't steal anything, as far as I'm concerned.
I think I've seen you, I've read one of your posts on Facebook when you said your dad gave his house or something, or, his property for the, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. When Chase Merchant Bank wanted to come to Nigeria, at that time, they didn't have any place to go. One of the houses my dad had, he gave it to Chase to use, and then before the war started, he sold the house and sunk that money into the war. So how could he have stolen money? If he did steal money, then he was taking back what he gave to Biafra, but he didn't. He didn't steal anything. If anything, he gave of himself. He gave what he could, what he had, to Biafra.
Tell me your dad's passion. If you still remember, I know it's been long now, but what's his passion about Biafra? What did he say? How did he expect the struggle to end? What were his expectations about Biafra?
Of course, everybody expected Biafra to win. All Biafrans expected Biafra to win. But when he saw signs that the war was ending, he and Ojukwu got together and made plans as to how they were going to give the country back to Nigeria. And that's exactly what happened. We left the country and they gave the country back to Nigeria. And we became Nigeria.
So you left and went to what? Came to Chicago?
We went all over. We went to Libreville. From Libreville, we went to Rome. From Rome, we went to Ireland. From Ireland, England to America. And then here I am.
Wow. So, you must have done some investigation. You must have done some research. And how do you think this story started? Why do you think this story is going around?
I think it's just people who didn't know and who wanted to know but didn't know how to ask and didn't want to ask, and then they just started their own stories. People talk. You sneeze and people say, oh yeah, he coughed. So it's just life. And for years, I've heard people say it right even in my face, your father stole money. No, he didn't. My father gave of himself.
Now, Emeka Ojukwu, Dean, he came back, was very articulate until he became really ill, which led to his death recently. So, has he ever made any recourse, any comment on this very issue?
Does he need to?
Did anybody ever ask him? Did you know?
I don't know, but as far as I'm concerned, he didn't need to make any statements on it. Both of them were involved in Biafra, and they both knew what was going on. I think that they understood each other, gave way to silence on both of their parts because they knew what was happening and didn't care what people had to say because they knew that eventually the real story would come out.
Yeah, I would have expected that those who were telling, who were, running these accusations would have confronted him because at a point, he was a politician. He was open to answer questions, regarding his past. So I would have expected people to confront him and say, what did you do with your cousin, Mojekwu, during the war? You did this, you did that. And nobody ever confronted him with that?
No, not that I know of, but like I said, the two of them understood themselves. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with whatever the two of them, they've been very close for years. Ojukwu's father, when my dad were friends, and Emeka, even up to the time that he came back from England and was a district officer, every Sunday he was in our house, so they understood each other.
So if people could go to bank with Dean Ojukwu's integrity, they might as well go with his the guy that he trusted so much, that he was so close with. So I do not know why they would have so much respect and so much regard for Ojukwu, and then think that his friend was totally the opposite.
His cousin, not friend.
Yeah, okay. Well, his close associate, because some cousins are not close. Some cousins are not as close as friends, right? Yeah. So that's just what I'm trying to find out there, and I'd like anybody who's watching this who thinks that he has more information, about this, to actually say something about it. Let's have some concrete, statements. If not, I think the issue should just be let go, just like the Biafran struggle. Or what do you think? What do you think about Biafra today, actually?
I think that Nigeria should remain one. Those who are now struggling and saying Biafra should come up are those people who did not experience 1 minute of fighting, did not lose anybody in that war. Because personally, I think if the war hurt you, like it hurt so many people, nobody would be calling for another Biafra. Those who didn't know or who were not directly affected, those are the ones calling for Biafra. People who were in war and were affected by it, I don't want to see another war. I know a lot of people don't. In fact, if I hear war, I'm not going.
Now, but if there could be a peaceful way, of holding a plebiscite or something, and then granting the Southeast some status of independence, maybe as a confederation or something, is it something that you would support?
I can't talk for all Nigerians. I can only speak for myself.
So, that's for yourself personally. Would you support? You think that one Nigeria works for you now?
For now, yes. For now, but anything can change tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so is there any point you want to make on this issue that you have not talked about?
All I can say to people is this: my dad did not steal any money. If he stole money, I wouldn't be here talking to you about it. It hurts me. Hurts me. It hurts me when people accuse him of being a thief. He's not a thief. Nobody would sit quietly and allow the world to call their dad a thief. No one, not even me. I'm hurt. That's all I am. And that's all I am. And if people want to go on believing that, that's on them. My dad is not a thief. He gave of himself, so much of himself to that country. Sorry.
When did your dad die? When did he pass on?
He died in a car accident about 20 plus years ago. He was coming back from picking up somebody at the airport, and he lost control of the car on a patch of ice and ran into another car. And his favorite song, Ribbons in the Sky, was playing on the radio.
So it happened here in Chicago?
Yeah, it did. In Highland Park.
Wow. You were involved in part of his business in Onitsha. You know, like he had a hotel, right? Or was it?
Yes, he had a place called Onitsha Guest House. And basically what it was 3 plots of land that he bought. And one place was kind of like a restaurant. The second plot was just leveled and tarred, so that it was open. And then the third place was, he had a couple rooms in there. And it was a place where he would go and sit with his friends, eat suya, and just generally relax, basically. Excuse me.
Yeah, Pamela, I know this is a very emotional point for you, a very touching issue. And I do hope that letting out the emotions and talking about it will help the healing process. Because it's only you that know how much this has affected you as a person. And you probably are doing some writings on this too, because I know you're very good at expressing yourself, as a writer. So, but I do want to say that personally, human beings just think that everybody, if somebody does something, another person gets into the same situation, he will do exactly the same thing. I don't think human beings are like that. If I walk in here and I see a wand of notes, currency notes, and I didn't leave any money, I need money. Everybody knows that you need money, right? But I will not be attracted to that money to keep it to myself. My attraction there will be to find the situation that made this money to stay here. Who owns this money, and make sure to make sure it gets into the right hands, and that will make me happy. I don't know if anybody who has this believes it or not. It doesn't really matter to me. That's what I am. But some people will see that money and their whole life plan will be how to make it theirs. So none of us, both of us are right. In the American sense, if you did ethics in America, they'll tell you that if you pick up money on the street or whatever, it's yours.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the American way.
Sure.
But I personally feel that that's not right. That first of all, you have to find out who owns that money, especially if it's tangible money. So, for the fact that he's a family member, it was calling him knowing he had capacity to make money and he had money, but he was just banding, he wasn't just throwing money around, right? So that shows some of his values too, as a person. And the fact that this man who worked so hard for his family and for the country and for his people, is not around anymore, and he was still living his life, working here, I believe, like most of us in the diaspora, when he met his untimely death, and that such stories will be going around about him. Well, we have Nigerians who have acquired billions, illegal, and they're living in luxury.
Billions illegally.
Yeah, living in luxury, and we are hailing them today. We want them to be our leaders and stuff. We should get our values right, especially those of us who call ourselves Igbo people, because I'm sure that most of the people saying these things are people who speak my language too and your language too. And some of them are from our own catchment area in Igbo land too. So we need to get together. I believe that anybody who's saying this thing should be able to say what Ojukwu Ikemba said about it. If you can't, if you didn't approach him with this story, all this while that he was available to talk about it, then you should let that issue go. Because
Ikemba would never say anything about it anyway, because the two understood themselves. They knew exactly what happened. They knew who had what. They knew who was sent where. So what would Ikemba have to say? Nothing.
Yeah. So that's about it. That's where we like most of the things that we throw out in the web, online, on TV, you can react to it. Wherever channel that you're watching this from, you can send your reactions from there, and it will get back to us, it will get to her, Pamela Mojekwu in Chicago. It's been nice having you share this with us.
Thank you so much.